Hi, today I want to talk about timeline shifting. So, the reason I want to talk about this is because I want to explain how collectives work when you jump from timeline to timeline. And when I say collectives, I mean the group of people, the collective consciousness, or the group of people in your reality, like your family members, your husband, your kids, your coworkers, your associates of any kind, even your government officials. Okay. So, say you make a decision. So for this, so for this example, I'm going to use this. Okay, this looks kind of silly. All right. So this is two major timelines, right? Okay, ignore how messy it is. I was in a rush. Okay, let's just say you have a big decision at this point, right? And this decision will cause you to go to this timeline or that timeline, right? So say in this big decision, one decision is to take a career opportunity aligned with your highest passion, okay? And this decision is to take a career opportunity that is aligned with making a lot of money, but it's not a conscious job, right? And so you are stuck with a tough decision right here. And in this tough decision, you could either decide to, I'm gonna follow my passion, which look like you might not make money at first or a lot of money. Or you can follow and immediately start with like a six-figure income and just go up from there, right? So a lot of people, would choose in this reality, considering inflation and how hard life is, a lot of people will be like, I'm going on this timeline because I need to make all this money right now. And maybe later I can go back to this timeline. Some people think like that, right? And some people try to do a combination of both. So now imagine if you go on this time and you say, no, I'm about to follow my highest passion. So you struggle a little, right? And then you start, seeing some alignment in your path, and you start making making a little money, but you're overall happier. Okay. So this naturally makes this timeline high vibrational. The more you're happy, the more you're in your highest passion, you begin to manifest more. You might, on this timeline, meet your spouse or your soulmate or have children, grow a family, and you may find a spouse that's into your passion too. So together you excel to this amazing, beautiful timeline, right? Now let's say you take the other timeline, right? You want to start with six figures. You're tired of struggling. You love your spiritual journey and wish you could work on your passion, but you got bills. You want to own a house. You want to do all this stuff. So you choose this timeline. This timeline, you have to get so focused on work, you can't focus on your spiritual journey as much. So you're feeling in a lower vibration than you would have been working on your passion. In this lower frequency, you're going to meet everything that matches that frequency, right? So in this one, you find a spouse, and the spouse is in alignment with your passion and your joy, and together you excel, have a family, and you're both working in your passion. But in this one, you get lonely, you want to date. You have a high-paying job, and you can meet a spouse, and maybe as a business associate or at your career, whatever it is, and you meet a spouse, and he makes a lot of money, or she, okay, however you want to do this. And together you have financial abundance, and maybe you can dabble in, doing some spiritual stuff in a retreat. But overall, the spouse you meet is not really alignment in your true passion, and neither are you, because you chose money over your passion. So this timeline will look a little differently, right? So this spouse may never open up to the spiritual journey, but they can love you and support you and be there for you. But you might go through a whole nother path, have different children. Your family might respond a certain way, okay? So now that I've explained this is why I want to talk about the collectives. In this particular situation, we're talking about the spouse, right? Let's say, I mentioned two different spouses. Okay, let me tell you something else can happen. This spouse that you met, right? Spouse A, Okay, this spouse, you met spouse A, high vibrational, you love this journey and you guys are, you own it together, right? But spouse B, spouse A can be spouse B as well. So let's just say your version of spouse A on your higher consciousness, higher passion timeline, you guys are perfectly in alignment because you chose this timeline all along. See, let me tell you something. If this spouse is like a soulmate individual that you plan to meet here and be, be together and be married or support each other, either way, the spouse will meet you on either timeline. Okay, so right now he or she is a very spiritual, conscious person, right? But let's just say you chose this timeline, but your soulmate is going to meet you no matter what you just choose. Remember, you creating your reality, everything lines up to match you. So your spouse A now turns into spouse B. Same person, same physical appearance, same everything, except for they have a different career. And with this energy, they're not conscious yet. Okay. Not saying that it can't happen. I'm just saying your collective changes based on the decisions you make and what changes. Along with spouses, you might have parents. Okay. Someone was asking me this question, and specifically, when I go to a new timeline, will my parents be different people? Here's how it works. See, we don't see major timeline shifts. Let's see, how do I explain this? Okay, so major timeline shifts don't usually happen. It's right now, because of where our human belief system and mind works, we see subtle timeline shifts, right? So this spouse, if you haven't met him yet, it's up to you. You don't know exactly how it would have been. And if you did meet him, let's just say you met him before the timeline shift, right? You could have met your spouse, male or female, and together you guys could decide to go to this timeline, or together you can go to this timeline, or you can go to one of these timelines and meet them afterwards. No matter what, the person you're meant to be with, if this is agreement you had with them, you're going to meet on any timeline, and they're going to fall into whatever timeline. But let's just say it's somebody like your parents, right? And so what'll happen is with your parents, I have another board for this. Okay. So your parents, and we'll put P for parents, you start off, they give birth to you, so y'all start off on this timeline together. And then, whatever timeline changes you make, right? Let's just say like that, they're going to be on these timelines with you, right? Now, let's just say, let's say you make a decision, right? And you go to you have a spiritual awakening and you're vibing on this path. So, right. So you'll go to the spiritual way. And remember, thousands of timelines happen. This is just an example. You have this spiritual awakening. Will your parents be different on this timeline than they was on that timeline? Well, that all depends. Okay. Now, if your parents, so what happens is the people, they have also their own agreements, all right? So you may have a parent that said, I'm just going to play this game at a certain frequency. I'm not going to go to the same frequencies you're going to. And see, this looks bad. It looks like you're going down, right? All right, so say you choose to go on a timeline where, you're just going up in vibration, but your parent is not, right? And your parent is kind of stuck in their ways, right? So what'll happen is, they might, and this board is not really good for this. I'm not doing a good job, but okay. So what happened is they might say you go to a new time, you raise your vibration. This happened with me. I remember with my godmother, I had decided to become vegan and I was raising my vibration. And all of a sudden she was upset that I wasn't eating meat anymore. She didn't say it, but she made comments when we had family get-togethers, and she thought that for sure I was going to quit and everything, right? So you get to a point where when you go to a timeline, the collective around you, so not just your parents, it's going to be your coworkers, your friends, relatives. You go to the timeline that they're on. So say you make two decisions. Let me erase this. You make a decision, right? And your timeline splits. Okay. So say you raise your vibration and you go here and people, friends and family are also being a little more conscious, a little more happier on this frequency that you're in. But if you were to stay down here, you go to collective where they're a little bit unconscious, a little bit lower frequency there. And so what I'm trying to say is as you shift timelines, your collective shifts. And they are not, they're not necessarily aware of the shift. It's just that you went to different versions of them. They're the same person. They're just a version that would be in more of a frequency to match you at that time. Another thing that happens is, say you raise your vibration really high and you're just in a timeline where it's higher frequency, right? Now say there was somebody in your life that in their soul agreement, they wanted to stay at a certain frequency, right? They didn't want to go up to where you're going. They have a different goal, a different path, or they were here to help you for an experience. What'll happen is if you go up so high and they cannot match it, they drop off your timeline. That can mean a number of things. They could disappear. One thing I noticed, okay, so this is a thing. If you notice, you might have heard of this, every time a baby is born, there's some deaths around the family or close, either family or someone close, someone dies. And so I've noticed this with both my son and my daughter. Two specific family members died the first time with my son, and two specific family members passed away with my daughter. Actually, a few months ago, and they were family members. In fact, a lot of people in my biological family passed away in the past year or two. And it just happened like all at once. They're not even that old or anything, right? See, this is what I'm talking about. So what'll happen is, when you have a baby, there's a major timeline shift, especially for the babies coming in now. The babies, they're coming in at a higher frequency. They're not going to New World Order. The last video was New World Order versus New Earth. They're going to 5D timelines. These babies are not coming in. They're not playing those games. They're coming in awake. They're coming in conscious. They're coming in knowing their God. Okay. So when they come in and there's like these old school type of people that don't want to open up the spirituality, a lot of them dropping off the timeline. They're gone, and see, they're gone for my timeline. Technically, these people are probably still alive on their timeline, right? It's just that their particular journey no longer matches with my particular journey. So they may drop off my timeline, hence pass away, disappear, or whatever. And then they go on to whatever they have planned, if they even exist outside of this. A lot of people in your creation, it's a collaboration just for you. But sometimes we co-create with somebody else having an experience, but they just they show up in our timeline at the frequency we need them, because we're a reflection of each other. So they're here to reflect back to us what we need to learn, what we need to see. They're teachers in a lot of cases, And so your collective will always be changing. And you'll notice this, like, say you're in a day where you just feel good today. You feel in a high vibration. You go out and you go to the grocery store and you're talking to the same grocery checker people you normally talk to, right? And all of a sudden you notice that they are also happier. They are also feeling good and more talkative and stuff. Why is that happening? You shifted into a frequency that you went to a collective that they all matched you. Now, timeline jumping and shifting your timelines around is something you can intentionally do. Say, for a good example, let's say you have a disagreement with someone, okay? It could be a spouse, and this is probably a good way to look at it. I remember my mentor used to always say this, that, when you have an argument with somebody, the next time you see them, it's a different version of them. They're not the same person you had the argument with. But if you bring up the argument, they will then remember, and you have went back to that timeline. And so a lot of times when you have, say you have a disagreement, or you have something like, I really see this my way. I want this person to see this my way. The wrong way to do it is to go with them and debate the subject and start into an argument. Yeah, you can do it that way. And some people like to play that game. But the best way to do it is meditate about it, right? And connect to their higher self. Talk to their higher self like you would talk to your higher self, right? Let me tell you, they will get that message. I remember one time my husband and I got together. I got mad about something. I had a lot of traumas that I would trigger. Nothing to do with him. It just was stuff that I had been through, and I was getting used to it. And I just, I got quiet, and I just was the kind of person that, what is that silent treatment type of thing? And, he told me that, I remember he said he meditated and he talked to my higher self. And he told me, he basically talked to my higher self. And afterwards, a calm came over me. Like, he was right there and he was meditating. A calm came over me. And I felt better. My higher self communicated to me, And so these, like I said, with these collectives, you can shift things around. You can go to a timeline, where the person is in a better mood. Like, say you're dealing with some type of government thing, maybe you got a ticket or a court date, and maybe somebody's being like nasty to you. And I had a court situation once where the lawyer was being really nasty, and you know what I did? I changed timelines. I set my intentions, and I sent her love and tried to raise my vibration. And the next court day, she was off my timeline. I knew someone took her place, and they completely agreed with me, and they knew she was wrong. So what happens if that person doesn't shift to your timeline? They fall off of your timeline, And so this is like not a sad thing. I know a person was asking about their parents and stuff. Listen, this is all a journey. This is a game, okay? Not everybody has the same path as you, even if it's your parents, brother, sister, daughter. They're not like, even if they do go off your timeline, it doesn't mean that they're dead on their time. It doesn't mean you'll never see them again. It doesn't mean you'll never connect to them again. And generally, if you're up this high and they're down that low, a lot of times this is a situation where you end up cutting the people off anyway, because they might just be toxic or something. So always know from day to day, you're dealing with different versions of people in your collective, whether it's your husband, spouse, or children. And you can always raise your frequency and deal with the best versions of them. And also, like, think about what I said. If you dwell on a past event that hurt you with the person you're dealing with or you was upset about, you're going to continually go back to that old timeline where they did that. So you have to get to a point to realize that from timeline to timeline, we're not, our memories, let me tell you something, your memories are an illusion. Because once you go to a different timeline, you hold all of the memories of that timeline, and you forget, and you don't remember the old timeline. So it's going to always feel like you were in the same exact timeline, if that makes sense. And so if you could just believe it, there's times where I'll bring something up, right? And, recently my daughter came to visit a couple of days ago, and she has shifted timelines. She doesn't know this yet, and I do know it. And I had a conversation with her about a dream she told me about a couple of years ago. And she does not remember the conversation nor the dream. And she thinks that possibly I'm misremembering. But I was like, you know what? I would actually believe that. But my husband was there too, and you told both of us the dream. She has no idea. So when you come into contact with a person and you're bringing up something they have no clue about, they don't remember, it's just might be you're not on the timeline with that old version of them. You're on a new timeline with a new version of them. And, which in it, lots of things could happen, okay? Lots of things happen where, when a person is in a timeline, you go to a whole new collective. If you had stayed on, if like say the dream, the the timeline with my daughter, right? Okay, so she told me she had a dream. And in the dream, she was in a car accident and was killed. Like somebody else was driving the car, they hit a deer and she died. And she told me, and she said, Mom, I had a dream where I died. And I was like, what? I completely saw the message that she needed to take charge of her life and drive her own, and I know that this didn't mean just driving a car. It meant driving your life, driving your decisions, and not letting anyone make these decisions for you. Because if someone else is in the driver's seat, you could lose your life. And I seen that, and that stuck with me because I knew that there was a message in that dream. And so when we talked about it this past few days ago, she has no memory of it, no memory at all. And, I have my conclusions of what I think actually happened. I'm not ready to share them yet, as she may rewatch this video, because I'm not ready for her to know what my conclusion is. But what I'm happy about is now, like, I saw our timeline shifting a lot, me and her, where, we weren't vibing for a while because of some things. And I noticed that when I moved and I started raising my vibration, I noticed the shift in her occurred as well. Like, she has been more into, like, I was focused on raising my vibration, living naturally, living holistically. I don't, homeschooling, not trusting the system. And for a while, she was like, I'm okay with the system. I'm voting for Biden, blah, 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 stuff like that. And and then later she began to see everything I saw. She started sending me videos about the stuff I've been trying to tell her about for ages. What happened? My daughter, I shifted to a timeline where she was more conscious, more awake, more into the natural, holistic, spiritual things. I shifted into a timeline that she's more in control of her life, making more decisions for herself. So she made a shift, but I made a shift in order to see that. Now, I could have stayed in this lower frequency timeline where we were going back and forth, not getting along. If I stayed there, she'd probably be still on that timeline with me. Right? And so this is how it works when you're moving around timelines and your collective changes with you. You'll notice your reality will all change, right? Like, say you're on a timeline where you see something projected on the news that's really negative. It's a good example of the pandemic, right? The pandemic, a bunch of timelines were created during the pandemic, right? Like, first, the timelines of the different ways that COVID had come into this reality. Some say it was a monkey, some say it was a setup, some say it was China. There was all these, so each time a new story is spun, the group of people believe that story are on that timeline, right? The next thing that came with that, with the pandemic is, people was fear mongering. They were like, they're going to force the vaccine. They're going to put people in concentration camps. And let me tell you something, that timeline did exist, right? But I chose to raise my frequency. I chose not to live in fear of everything they were projecting. And then my timeline shifted where COVID is now no worse than the flu or a cold now. Like, the CDC is saying that on my timeline. This is how I know this timeline stuff is real, right? And it's just subtle, and you think you're just going about life, but it's not like that. Remember, your life is an orchestration for you. Everything around you is a manifestation for you. The cat just walking outside across your house, it's meant for you. The people you run into at work or the grocery store or shopping or to get your hair done, these are all set up for your experience and your reality. Even the videos, watching my video right now, you and I had an agreement for you to see this. I was here to help you, and you're here to help me. And that is what I wanted to share about shifting timelines and changing collectives. Remember, you can always change your collective. And remember what I said, if that vibration is available for them, they will go to it. But remember, they're a creator God. They might have said, hey, Simone, I'm here to be there during your lower times. But after that, I'm getting off this timeline, this game, right? And so they may drop off your timeline. Some people may go with you and have, become more conscious. So generally, that's what's going to happen. Just at the New World Order versus versus New Earth Order. And I felt like this conversation goes in alignment with that because what I was going to say? I feel like this conversation goes in alignment with that because those are two major timelines, right? And a lot of times, there will be, because the New Earth 5D order is such a big shift in consciousness. There will be a lot of people falling off the timeline. Hence, there might be catastrophic events or things that happen, and you go to 5D. But just because you see them in a catastrophic event and you see thousands of people die, you're seeing it because they're going off your timeline. They might not actually be dead. They might be on the New World Order timeline, right? And the people who don't believe us, they're like, oh, they're crazy. They're not going to 5D. They're not raising their vibration. They need to believe in Jesus, blah, 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 blah. They may see us die on their timeline. And we're going to be all happy and free and immortal and eternal, enjoying 5D. And they're going to us, they're going to disappear out of reality. To them, they're going to be like, poor them, they died. But we're going to be alive forevermore, And so anyways, I wanted to talk about that. And thank you for watching. Sign up for my email list if you resonate with my channel. Share, like, and comment also if you resonate, because at this time, we really need to get these messages out. And, and just shift our consciousness so that, collectively as a whole, we can create this higher frequency. Have a great day.